Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cordell McGarry. I'm a Senior Certification Officer with the Department of Procurement Services of the City of Chicago. We'll be talking this afternoon about the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise programs that are offered by the City of Chicago. So let's begin. Basically, we would like to try to cover the following points. We want to talk about the program requirements for certification, talk a little bit about the certification process itself, what's involved, go over the application, talk about the benefits of becoming certified as a DBE, ACDBE with the City of Chicago, and also touch on items that may be of interest once you're certified. So with that in mind, let's begin. Again, we're with the Department of Procurement Services. In the Department of Procurement Services, our mission basically is to represent the City of Chicago as its contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the city. As a group, we pledge to work together as a team with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. With that in mind, our underlying principles are integrity, public trust, and the law. The City of Chicago is a recipient of federal dollars from the United States Department of Transportation. These dollars are used for the procurement of goods and services running from anything such as, let's say, roads, streets, to airports. As a federal recipient of funds, our goal is to maintain a program which is known as the DBE and ACDBE. The objectives of the ACDBE DBE program are to ensure non-discrimination in the award and administration of Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration assisted contracts in the department's highway, transit, airport financial assistance programs, as well as our airport concession programs. Our objective is to try to create a level playing field in which all businesses that are eligible can compete fairly for these assisted contract opportunities. The DBE program is designed to provide guidance for the participation of DBE firms in the contracting process. The DBE program is governed under federal regulations known as Chapter 49, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 26 and 23. And basically under the requirements, it states that a business concern must be a for-profit, small business, which is at least 51% owned by one or more socially and economically disadvantaged people, whose management and operations are controlled by one or more of the socially and economically disadvantaged owners. For purposes of clarification, in the Airport Concessions Program, the definition of airport concessions goes beyond just the actual concessionaire that may operate a stand or a restaurant at an airport, and that includes businesses and services that can provide management consultation, goods, services, supplies, and advertising to those concessions that may be operating at an airport. So if you're involved in any one of these activities, you can also be considered to be an airport concessionaire. Certification requirements under the program basically are divided into two categories: social disadvantage and economically disadvantaged. In the area of social disadvantage, groups that are defined would include Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, subcontinent Asian Americans, as well as Asian Pacific Americans, women, and also on a case-by-case basis, other individuals who can individually prove that they've been the victims of social and or economic disadvantage. From the standpoint of economically disadvantaged, it kind of covers two areas. The first being the business size standard, which for the DBE and ACDBE programs, the distinctions are for firms that on a 3-year average have annual gross receipts that don't exceed what's considered to be the Small Business Administration size limit for the firm's primary line of business, or up to a maximum of $23.98 million. And we say that to mean that businesses are certified in the area of specialization, such as, let's say, construction. It could be a plumber, electrician, and professional services. It could be an architect or a lawyer. Each classification by industry is given a size standard by the SBA. And firms that are qualifying for certification in any one of these areas must not exceed a certain size standard as determined by the SBA for that category. So again, given our example of Cordell McGarry, who operates a plumbing business, the SBA may dictate a standard of roughly average sales of being $14 million. If you're over $14 million, you're not considered to be a small business. So if my 3 years of average gross sales in that particular area exceeds that number, then I wouldn't be eligible for certification as a DBE. However, there are certain industries such as, let's say, highway construction, which might have a size standard that may be $30 million averaged over 3 years. Under the DBE guidelines as defined by the SBA, the limit would be $23.98 million. So there's a cap on that. For the ACDBE program, however, the 3-year average gross sales should not exceed one number, and that's $56.42 million, which represents, in many cases, the capitalization requirements for firms that are seeking to operate as a concession at the airport. There are certain exceptions to the size standard in the ACDBE program, such as in the event that you're operating as a car rental agency, your gross sales shouldn't exceed $75.23 million. If you're a minority bank or a bank that's operating in the airport, your average assets should not exceed $1 billion. And again, if you're doing payphones, you shouldn't have any more than 1,500 employees. So it could be based upon number of employees, asset size, or other criteria based upon the industry that you're involved in. The other aspect of economic disadvantage pertains to the net worth standard for the individual owners. In the DBE program, your personal net worth, with certain exceptions, should not exceed $1.32 million for eligibility, and this applies to both the DBE and ACDBE program. So with that in mind, if your net worth, after, let's say, taking into consideration removing the value of your personal residence and maybe your interest, your financial interest in your business, let's say if your gross sales exceed $1.32 million, you're not considered to be economically disadvantaged. Maybe that's a good thing to have, though. So, just kind of summarizing where we are, a DBE eligibility would include a firm that's in business for profit. That business would need to be 51% owned by members of a group presumed to be socially and economically disadvantaged. Again, social disadvantage pertains to the ethnicity or gender of the individuals that are seeking certification. Business size standards and personal net worth would be determining factors under economic disadvantage. Businesses are certified in the area of specialization as well, as we mentioned earlier. One thing we didn't note, but we will say that when you're certified in the area of specialization, again, let's say again, Cordell McGarry is operating as a plumber, it's expected that as an owner of that business, I would have expertise in that particular area. We'll discuss a little bit more about that later as we go on. The DBE process basically begins with the completion of an application. And we ask that you do that. We do it electronically here in the city. We ask that you go to our on-site online application at www.chicago.mwdbe.com. When you get to that portal, you'll receive access to an electronic process. You can actually complete the application online. You will attach copies of documentation that supports your application online, and then it's all transmitted to the city for review and determination. This process does involve the completion of an on-site interview, which will occur actually towards the end of the certification process. Getting started with the documents, we ask for a variety of pieces of information. We look for evidence of citizenship or legal residency, as well as evidence of the owner's proof of contribution or capitalization for their business. That proof of ownership or evidence of capitalization could be as small as what it took for you to get incorporated or to file paperwork to get started, as well as it may very well be the equity investment that you use in buying equipment or just getting your business started. But we do require that you provide proof of your capitalization or your contribution. We look for documents that will more or less help to substantiate the type of firm that you are. There's a variety of different ways that businesses are organized in this country. You can do anything from a sole proprietor to a corporation. So the most common forms of business ownership would consist of a sole proprietor, partnership, limited liability company or LLC, or that of a corporation. And in cases where you're operating under any of those circumstances, you may be required to provide supporting documents. As a sole proprietor, for example, doing business in a name other than yourself, you may be asked to produce a sole assumed name certificate. Under a partnership or arrangement with another member, you may be asked to provide comes with a partnership agreement. Limited liability companies or LLCs typically are formed under the auspice of an operating agreement. And of course, corporations generally are composed of groups that put together articles of incorporation to actually get started, and they have bylaws that govern the operation of the corporation itself. Those are documents that we would need to substantiate the type of business that you are. In terms of other documents we may look for, we will look for copies of W-2s with 1099 forms for the owners that are involved in the company. Typically, we will ask for about 3 years of documents with respect to U.S. federal corporate tax returns, financial statements, as well as individual tax returns. In the event that you're a startup business, however, and you haven't been around for 3 years, we will take the information that you have available and just explain to us the circumstances upon which you're providing the information itself. There are other documents that we will ask for, and again, you'll get a checklist once you go through the application process. I mentioned earlier that we will be doing an on-site interview or review. That is required under the federal regulations. Basically, we must pay you a visit, interview you, talk with you, get to know you better from the standpoint of understanding who you are, the business that you're involved in, your role in that business, as well as basically what your thoughts and your desires for certification. This is a process that normally is going to be arranged. We'll contact you to reach out to you to schedule a time. On certain occasions, rare occasions, though, we might just pop up unannounced. But for the most part, it's something that we have to do. Okay. So after having gone through the application process and also having an on-site interview conducted with the certification team, we then come back, we will summarize our results, we'll look at the information that you provided, and then we go through a process that hopefully will result in approval of your application. In some cases, though, applications have been denied. The areas that we look at to form our basis for decision will be, again, the ownership. Like I mentioned earlier, we looked for 51% at least owned by members of a group presumed to be disadvantaged. We want to make sure that the business size and the personal net worth of the individuals fall within our guidelines. The areas of independence and control we look at from the standpoint of the particular owners being able to have control of their business without outside influence. We most certainly will look at the owner's expertise in the area of specialization that they're seeking certification in. For example, again, if I'm operating as a plumber and I have no background as a plumber, but I'm depending upon maybe someone that's working for me to do that, and that person's a non-minority or a non-disadvantaged individual, it could be suggested that I might be prone to being influenced by an individual that's not eligible to be a member of the program itself. Throughout this process, you're telling a story. You're telling a story about your business, who you are, what your area of specialization is in, and what you're seeking certification in. And I say that to say that the burden of proof is going to be on the applicants to demonstrate that they are, in fact, owners of the business, able to control its operations, as well as perform. And that's basically the major components of certification. Benefits of being certified as a DBE or ACDBE with the City of Chicago, and the very first one should be of interest to everybody. There's no application fee. As a federal recipient of funds from the U.S. Department of Transportation, the cost for this program is pretty much covered. There's no fee for processing. As a DBE or ACDBE, or as a recipient of the program, we, along with 4 other agencies in the state of Illinois, comprise what's called the Illinois Unified Certification Program. Those other agencies would be the Illinois Department of Transportation, Chicago Transit Authority, Metra, and PACE. Altogether, we pretty much form the Illinois Unified Certification Program, or ILUCP, which is responsible for governing the DBE and ACDBE programs in the state. Once you're certified with any one of those agencies, you're considered certified by them all, and therefore you can bid on contract opportunities at any one of these agencies as the opportunity comes about. We have a relationship with a number of other agencies that can provide assistance to you not just in putting together an application, but maybe even help you with certain technical aspects of your business. These groups are called assist agencies, and they provide a variety of different assistance for, again, for small businesses. Going to our website, cityofchicago.org, Department of Procurement Services, you can get a list of those assist agencies, and most of them are comprised of local chambers of commerce throughout the city that can help you. And finally, I guess the City of Chicago's program, it kind of demonstrates our continued commitment to working with small businesses. We recognize small businesses as the lifeblood of our economic engine. By its virtue of creating jobs and opportunities, it helps to actually make the city, what it is. So we, by virtue of operating this program and several others, because we have 5 certification programs in its entirety, it demonstrates our continued commitment to the success of minority and women-owned businesses. Now, after having said all of that, the application process itself, with regards to how long it takes to be certified, average is about 90 days. As you can see, we have a lot of information that we're asking from you, and in turn, we have a lot of information that we're going to review to make that determination. So we try to do this within 90 days. We must, though, indicate to you that during the review process, there may be time on occasion where we might have to come back and ask for additional information. If that's the case, depending on the clarification or additional documents we may ask for, it may take longer in some cases, but we strive to do it under 90 days for the most part. Yes, you can. I guess we're going to have a question and answer session, but feel free. Yes.
Hi, my name is Robin Akins. I'm already DBE certified. So if I'm DBE, is it a simpler application fee, or not application fee, but application for me to also get the ACDBE?
Okay, so as I understand, you're certified as a DBE currently, and you're interested
with CTA.
in becoming an ACDBE client. Actually, it's quite easy for you because most of the hurdles of certification you've already pretty much covered. The only thing that you would need to do at this point would be to perhaps send a letter to your agency, your host agency, which I understand you to say is CTA, asking for consideration or certification as an ACDBE. Now, what you should do is provide supporting information that will talk about your activities, your planned activities as an airport concessionaire. So, say for example, may I ask what type of business you're involved in?
I have construction management, construction cleaning as well, and also administrative general management services, and janitorial services as well.
So you want to talk about the services that you feel will be available to concessionaires. And that's like the area of specialization you're looking at. As an ACDBE, you should be able to provide a service to a concessionaire if you're not directly operating at an airport. That service could be the sale of supplies, goods, consultation, or of some sort of service that you're providing. So you would need to detail that, and that would be the basis for your request. So we'll then review that, or the host agency will review that and make a determination. Okay, so let's see. Once the benefits of being certified, again, I mentioned there's no application fee. We talked about the UCP, the relationship with assist agencies, as well as our commitment. Once you're certified, we do provide you with what's called one-stop certification. Again, we're reiterating the fact that once you're certified as a DBE with either any agency that comprises our UCP, you're considered certified by all of them for purposes of bidding on contracts. You can also sign up for alerts that we have on our DPS and Department of Aviation workshops, websites, and that would be DPS alerts, for example, which we encourage you to subscribe to, where you'll receive information about contract opportunities, as well as bids as they come about. A similar alert system is also managed at the website that's managed by the Department of Aviation, so I encourage you to go on both websites and sign up for the alerts. Again, we talked about the sister agencies, and that, when we talked about assist agencies, we have sister agencies as well. By the sister agencies, I'm referring to governmental bodies like CTA, like the Chicago Public Library, like the Chicago Metropolitan Reclamation District. All of these organizations, as well as the public school systems, for example, have procurement departments. They're also in the need of procuring goods and services for their agencies. As a certified entity, DBE or MBE with the City of Chicago, as bid opportunities come about in those agencies, you'll be invited to participate. You can participate in those opportunities as well. Again, we provide you with a list of agencies on our website that can help you go navigate the application process, as well as provide valuable information and technical assistance to you in your business itself. So, as you can see, we have a lot that's part of the DBE program, part of our certification process as well. So, that kind of concludes my part in this conversation. If there are any questions that you may have, I'll be more than happy to entertain them. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
What's the difference between DBE and MBE, because their qualification requirement seems to be exactly the same. So why two different certifications?
Okay. Well, you're right. And in most cases, the certification requirements will be the same or quite similar. The distinction between the two is one certification, the DBE and ACDBE program, is what I refer to as federal programs, that they're governed under federal regulations and apply to federal government opportunities. Say, for example, a recent project. Several years ago, the Chicago Transit Authority did some work on its red line. They did a big, massive red line project where they went and rebuilt the tracks. That process involved federal dollars. As part of the DBE program, by being federally supported, DBEs were encouraged to be part of that. So that was an example of a DBE program. The City of Chicago, as I mentioned at the beginning, we contract for over $2 billion of goods and services. Most of that is actually procured through our corporate budget, which is, that involves, again, the city's ordinance. So the local programs, which I refer to as the MBE, Minority Business Enterprise, Women Business Enterprise, as well as Business Enterprise for people with disabilities, those three programs are local programs. They're governed under local ordinance. So we have two sets of regulations governing two different types of programs. Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. And once you're certified with the ACDBE, you're pretty much you're able to bid on any jobs with the Midway and O'Hare airports.
Yes.
As a goal, or whatever the goal that they have. Because I know I was just at the Midway, I guess it was Transit Partners, I forget partnership, and they were saying how that there's a lot of about $2 billion that's going into Midway Airport and also with O'Hare. So. And I know that they said as a DBE you could not participate, but once you do have the ACDBE, you can pretty much bid on any type of jobs at the airports.
Pardon me. So to answer your question, the airports themselves are basically part of they're under the auspices of the federal government. They receive funds from the FAA, so the ACDBE certification does apply to concessions that are involved in either airport. So let's say that the program you're referring to involves concessions. That's where the ACDBE program would be involved. Let's say we're expanding concessions, we're adding new concessions, concession opportunities are there. That involves ACDBE certification. Let's say another part of the modernization actually pertains to building runways at the airport, doing road work at the airport. Pardon me. That work actually does involve DBE because it's not involving a concession, but it's still funded under federal dollars. So that portion of the work would probably require a DBE. So there's a difference. So like say, for example, you're doing construction work at the airport that involves the actually working at Midway itself, as opposed to any concession. Your construction activity would apply probably as a DBE. Let's say, for example, you're doing work specific to a concession, and it wouldn't involve building out the concession. That doesn't count. But let's just say, for example, you're doing, as you mentioned, consulting. Let's say some of your consulting activities would involve providing consultation to a restaurant or another type of concessionaire. If you can identify your role in the consulting and it pertains to supporting that entity, you may be able to qualify as an ACDBE.
Any other questions? Great.
Okay. So again, our number is 312-744-4900. You can call at any time. We have a number of certification officers that are available to help you. And I thank you. Okay. 312-744-4900. Option 1 will lead you to certification. So if you're interested, if you have a certification question, just dial that number and ask for option 1. Okay. Thank you.